Ahava blessings and welcome to this video. How are you? Today we're going to be talking about Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, which starts today, the day I'm recording this, on January the 30th and 2021. So this is the first Mercury retrograde of 2021 and it is in the sign of Aquarius. We have 3 this year and they are all in air signs. Quite powerful, a big difference from the previous year. We were used to having the retrogrades in water signs, and now we are going to the air sign. So this Mercury retrograde starts today, finishes on the 20th of February, but actually the shadow season, the pre-season, started on the 15th of January and finishes after we finish on the 20th and we go direct the 20th of February. We actually have until March 13th for the integration period. So I really want to give you tools on how to navigate Mercury retrograde in Aquarius and Mercury retrograde in general. And if this is the first time you're watching a video or hearing something about Mercury retrograde, this information will really help you out. And at the same time, if you know a lot about Mercury retrograde, because I really want to give an archetypal expression of this journey that we are going through. So Mercury retrograde happens 3 times a year. Most of the time. You may get 4, but 3 times a year. And it does last for about 21 days. Now, 21 is a very powerful number. 21 is the number of the goddess. A lot of times when we do activations or maybe journeys, we do 21 days, and this is really in devotion for to the goddess or any type of internal transformation that we're looking for. So 21 is a very, very powerful number because it does symbolize the soul. It's a number that is connected to the soul. If we also add 21, it is a 3, the Trinity. So anytime I do anything during 21 days, maybe I do a womb pilgrimage for 21 days or a sadhana, a practice or meditation for 21 days, I know that I'm really looking to find a connection with my soul or a transformation. So you may ask yourself, why in some lineages or practices, why do we do 40 days of meditations? Well, 40 is the number for reprogramming. It's a total reprogramming. But 21 is a very spiritual soul number. So when you think about it, if this happens 3 times a year, 21 adds up to a 3. 21 is a soul number, the Trinity. This is very deep, and it's an opportunity for us to go within. So Mercury is the messenger god, okay? Mercury is the messenger god that brings messages to us. It's how we communicate. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. Communication isn't just the word. Communication isn't just what I am saying and how I speak and how I express myself and how I allow to express myself. Because sometimes we may have moments in our lives that it's very difficult to express ourselves. I've had lots of those. I'm a Cancer sun, and I've had to learn how to say no. That has been something very, very difficult for me. And maybe as women, if you're watching this, and men as well too, but maybe some women have found it very difficult to express their authentic voice just because of different programmings with our maternal line and what we've inherited through society, a patriarchal society. So of course, that has to do with Mercury. That type of communication, definitely. But there's another type of communication, and it's how we communicate with energy, with intuition. It's how we communicate with everything around us, our surroundings. How do I communicate with my shadow, with my archetypes? How do I communicate with my soul? How do I communicate with my home, with money, with food, with relationships, with people? So it's all types of communication because we tend to think of ourselves as the I, but we really are the we, and in amongst that we and within that we can learn to express the I, which is what we're here to do. So we really are in connection and communication with absolutely everything. So Mercury, as the messenger god, brings us messages about our 3-dimensional field, this dimension, but messages from above as well, messages from the past, from our ancestors, messages from light beings. But the beautiful thing when we think about it is the Greek name for the messenger god is Hermes. And there's one thing that we tend to forget about Hermes. Hermes was the only god that was allowed to go to the underworld and come back. Again, the only god allowed to go to the underworld and come back and then go up to the heavens and then go to mortals. I mean, this is very, very powerful. Why is this powerful? Because this is what Mercury retrograde does. We go into the underworld, and I'm going to define that because the underworld isn't bad, it's the shadow. We go into the shadow, we go within. And that's what happens when Mercury goes retrograde. It stops. It just stops and says, now you need to go within and start looking at your communication. How do you communicate yourself with the world, with relationships, with people, with everything, with the word? How do you create with the word? What are you creating? So a word is a vibration, and it doesn't even matter sometimes what we are saying. It's the vibration that we are saying it with. So this is a very, very powerful. So we need to navigate within. And I think this is, Hermes is a very, very good example of what we come to do here in the Mercury retrograde. Now, Hermes and Mercury are also really connected to the holy scribes, like Thoth, like Thoth, that's how you would say in English, and Metatron, because these are people that have to, these are light beings that are connected with the mind, the word, and writing and thought patterns and how we think. I hope you have that. If you have any questions, please write them below and I will be honored to answer your questions. And that's what I'm here for. Okay. So we're going to talk about what Mercury retrograde in Aquarius means. Now, Aquarius is anything that has to do with innovation, communication, humanitarianism, how we connect with humans, how we connect with people, and a balance between what I want, but what the collective wants. It's not just about my needs and what I want, but about what everyone else needs and wants. And this is very, very powerful because we've come from an age and we're still there. And even we've been bombarded by New Age slogans as well, not just Yang patriarchal mindset that first me, it's what I want, go for it. And you come first, then the rest. So we've been bombarded with this I. But then what about the rest? And what about other people? And what about everything around me? So when we go into the Aquarian energy, the first thing we ask ourselves is, what is my Aquarian sacrifice? Now I want to define this word. Sacrifice comes from sacred right. It is not a negative word. It is not a word that brings suffering, even though it has, because we have not understood it. Sacrifice is a sacred right where you, us, we, through the love that we have of ourselves and of humanity, put someone else first. Yeah, that's powerful. Okay, so it is true. If we're not well, if we're not emotionally stable, we cannot be emotionally there for our partners or for our children or for our family. That's true. But think about it. How many times have we done something for someone knowing that maybe we really don't want to because the laziness and the ego comes in, but we do it. We do it because we know we have to be there for that person. So anytime we work with Aquarius, this is the first archetype that we need to work with. Now, in Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, things that we will see affect us because Aquarius rules astrology, rules technology, rules innovation, rules channeling. Aquarius is an air sign, the water bear. Aquarius rules the mind. Okay, the planet that governs Aquarius is Uranus, and Uranus wants strong change. Okay, so in these 21 days of Mercury retrograde, we're going to be very challenged with our thoughts. We're going to have to really look into our thoughts. And this is important because we're going to have so much mental action, so much mental activity that at some points we're going to be like, stop, I don't want to think about this anymore because the patterns are going to come up, the negative thought patterns. And not only the negative thought patterns. When I say negative, I mean thought patterns that make us recreate programs or toxic relationships, But not only negative thought patterns, we're going to understand, if we really go within, what archetypes are working within us as we start to believe and think these patterns. And let me give you an example. If I wake up one morning and I am in the mystic archetype, I've just maybe had a beautiful practice, I slept well, everything is beautiful, I'm feeling my divine feminine energy, and I feel like the mystic. So everything that happens and everyone I relate to, I'm going to be probably having a communication through the mystic archetype. So my thoughts will be elevated and I will see things differently. Now, what if I wake up one morning and I'm not very aligned? I've been bombarded by the subconscious mind at night, haven't slept, maybe had a strange conversation with someone the night before that triggered something within. Now, what is the archetype working through us in that day? Is it the archetype of the abandoned child? Is it the archetype of the destroyer? Is it the archetype of the jealous mother or jealous brother or jealous partner? So many archetypes. I'm not going to go into that. So, what archetypes am I communicating with that day? And when I communicate with that archetype, what is the thought pattern that is coming up? What is the thought pattern that's coming up? And this is how it's going to be very tricky. This is where we're going to have to start and understand the archetypes that live through us. Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. Understanding those archetypes in the light and the ones that are in the shadow that come up. And understand what type of thinking patterns those archetypes create. Because if this is an archetype that we're thinking and feeling and communicating with that we don't like because we're going into these patterns that aren't very healthy, we need to understand how to accept that archetype and give that archetype a different name and elevate it. Maybe say, no, I want you to meet the mystic. I want you to meet the nurturer. I want you to meet the happy child. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, I mean, we've already started feeling this. I started feeling this on the 15th of Aquarius, and I started realizing and feeling and thinking, you see the word? Different energies, like why I think the way I think in certain days, and this triggers a whole set of actions and consequences in that day, but then on other days it's different. And so this is going to be happening a lot in Aquarius, Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. Another thing that you will find happening is you're really going to start feeling a lot of energy, and there's going to be we're going to be invited to start understanding how the relationship of the mind and intuition can work together, how we can fuse these two together to actually understand what is happening in my field, and then thinking and really integrating that feeling to make decisions and even to heal and even to attract things in our lives. And this is very important because our intuition, we tend to think that intuition is here because this is the chakra associated with intuition, right? But intuition, this is really vision. Okay, and we tend to think that chakras are just one certain place, but this chakra actually has a polarity, and we can see this in the tree of life and in the Kabbalah. It has a polarity. It's a feminine and a masculine polarity, and the feminine polarity will see everything, okay, everything and beyond, and interconnect everything. But the masculine polarity would be like this over here, and this is, both are important, both work together. So that's vision, very connected with Aquarius energy. Now, what is intuition? Intuition is the whole body. It is the whole energy field, and the energy is related to the water element within us. So it is how we feel things. It is what comes to us, and then we start to just bring it into our field. It can come from behind, from the front, from the side. So we're going to be really starting to awaken the power of the intuitive mind. And I like to relate these two together because intuition with the mind, allowing the intuition to work with the mind. the intuitive mind. And this is a very good opportunity to awaken cosmic intelligence. Now, Aquarius is an extraterrestrial sign. We know that, okay? I love to use that word. So Aquarius deals with cosmic intelligence, alignment. What are the we're going to be receiving so many messages, and probably from a lot of light beings and even planets. Planets are an energy. They are living entities that want to speak to us. So there's so much movement with this Jupiter and Saturn conjunction Aquarius, and wanting to bring innovation, and at the same time wanting to have a strong foundation for that innovation. All of this is going to be happening. So when we are challenged to go within to see all of this during a Mercury retrograde, in this sense in Aquarius, if we don't do this, this is when Hermes, Mercury, the messenger god, says, "Vroom," and cuts off our communication. Something will happen. Something can happen to the phone. Something can happen to the computer. I can miss my flight. I can forget about a date that I had with my best friend or with someone. I can even forget a bill that I had to pay. All of this will happen because we're not listening to the messages. And something amazing, I mean, like I said, the setup phase started on January the 15th. And just a couple of days ago, or 3 days ago, something happened to my daughter where she forgot something. And I kept reminding her, like all mothers. And I reminded her a few times. And well, she is a Libra, and a beautiful Libra, and who just loves to look at beauty sometimes. Thank God she has an Aries moon. And she didn't remember something. And then there were consequences. And then when she spoke to me, she said, "Oh, my day has been horrible, and everything didn't turn out the way I wanted to. I can't, why?" And I said, "Your day wasn't horrible. You just didn't listen to the messages. And this is why this happened." And so that's just an example of what Mercury retrograde does. You need to listen. We need to listen. So we need to be a lot more present. Okay. We need to be a lot more in the body. And when we have a Mercury retrograde, things need to go slower so we can be mindful. That is the word, mindful, mindfulness, present, to be here. Things need to go slower so we can understand what is happening and what are the messages trying to come in. Now, a few other things I just want to talk about before we finish. Another another thing that will be triggered in this Mercury retrograde is the idea of free will, our choices. What are the choices that we're given to make, and how our choices affect not just ourselves, but everyone around us? And this is going to be really, really powerful. So we need to be really mindful with our choices, because if our choices do not affect the collective in a loving way, in a harmonious way, in a beneficial way, this could recreate a lot of karma within us. A lot. Okay, so we need to be very mindful in this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius of the choices that we make. And the humanitarian knows that, and this is what we're called to awaken into. Are the choices I'm making and the needs that I am choosing for myself beneficial and helpful for the whole, the collective? So we need to also think about this in this Mercury retrograde. Now, wonderful things that are going to happen if we really tune into this energy, because remember, the mystic aligns the energies, and that's what we want to do. We align it to the creative channel, and the creative channel is the channel that's coming in that moment. So if we choose to consciously connect to the creative channel of a Mercury retrograde, that means that we align with the energy. And when we use the energy, embody the energy, we become the magician. Okay, remember that. That's what a magician is, knowing how to use the tools that we are given. So in this Mercury retrograde, a lot of beautiful things that are going to awaken in all of us, a lot of innovative ideas. Now, maybe it's not the moment to express very quickly these innovative ideas, but take time to understand the innovative ideas that you're having. about a lot of things of your work, your creations, how to make money, how to educate your children. There's a lot going on in this new age with how do I want to educate my child, all of that. I mean, just write those ideas down and meditate on them, reflect on them, create with them, because we're going to get a lot of insights. Another beautiful thing happening in this Mercury retrograde, if we choose to align consciously with this energy and um, give ourselves the space, an awakening and a powerful awakening in intuition and how could I say this? Almost psychic abilities to perceive the energy field and to perceive messages. Now, I hope that I helped you in this video, and I hope that I gave you some beautiful ideas that you can jot down and work with during this Mercury retrograde. I really like Mercury retrogrades. Now, in my experience, Mercury retrogrades really affect my mind a lot, and I think probably everyone, because Mercury is the mind. And what I like to do is I have a very strong morning practice, and I commit to that practice. But I really try in every Mercury retrograde to make my day slower and maybe not put in so many appointments or to-do lists in my day, and to give myself time not only in the morning to do my sadhana and my practice, but in the evening as well, or in the afternoon, or when the sun starts to come down and we connect to that yin energy, and maybe write a little bit of what I was thinking, what I'm feeling, thoughts that have gone through my body, my vehicle, and also messages. What are the different messages that I've received through numerology, through songs, through people, through channelings, through intuition, just to give a little bit of insight. And I love always to have a beautiful new notebook or diary to write every day during Mercury retrograde. Thank you so much for listening to me. I feel so honored. And just remember to write down any questions that you have in the field, and I will answer them as soon as I can. Blessings. Ahava. Oh, wait, before we leave, let's chant a little bit. Let's chant to get out in the mind. And we're going to chant Divine Mother, which I really enjoy. Just changing the microphone. Divine Mother, receive our prayer. Divine Mother, hear our song. Divine Mother, receive our prayer. Divine Mother, hear our song. Queen of the heavens, infinite grace, lead us to your eternal light. May you shed your love upon us. Divine Mother, receive our prayer. Divine Mother, hear our song. Divine Mother, receive our prayer. Divine Mother, hear our song. Queen of the heavens, infinite grace, lead us to your eternal light. May you shed your love upon us. Mother divine, Mother divine, Madre divina, Madre divina, Mother divine, Mother divine, Madre divina. And just inhale and exhale. Ahava, thank you. Blessings.